and high five that person and tell that person, I made it into this room tonight. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Wonderful. After you all have high-fived everyone, I want you all to have a seat. All right. When you all entered the room tonight, I would have asked everyone to place their names on a piece of paper. And I could tell for some of you all this was challenging. So tonight's icebreaker activity is say your name backwards. So you all already have your names inside of the box. So we're going to shake the box first of all, and we're going to randomly choose 5 persons in the room. Now you are allowed 2 chances. So you're going to select one of the pieces of paper, and you're going to try to figure out whose name is on the paper. If you do get the person's name correctly, that person has to stand and share with us one fun activity that they enjoy doing in their lives. Have you all understood what I said? All right, so let's begin. And we do snaps just to encourage persons as they're about to draw from the box. You're going to have the floating microphone come around, and you're going to speak into the microphone and tell us exactly one positive thing that you like to do.
Good night.
Good night. Come on, let's snap. And if you're having difficulties with the name,
I think this name is pronounced as Miriam.
Miriam. All right, yes, it's Sister Miriam. So you can kindly share with us one fun activity that you enjoy doing.
I like to sing and dance.
All right, wonderful. All right, so we're on to the next mysterious person. And come on, let's snap our brothers and sisters on, encouraging them.
Small.
All right, and let's snap our brothers and sisters on to encourage them.
Good night. I love dancing.
All right, wonderful. All right, and we are now on to number 3. Come on, let's snap our brothers and sisters on to encourage them as they select those mysterious names.
Semerete.
Wonderful.
Testing.
Good night, everyone. I love to play football.
Wonderful. Number 4. If you're having difficulties, you can choose another name. Come on, let's snap our sister on to encourage her.
I like to read.
Wonderful. All right, fifth person. Come on, let's snap on to encourage our brothers and sisters tonight.
Speak into the microphone. Give her the microphone.
Good night, everyone. So, one thing I like is motivating and encouraging people.
All right, wonderful. So tonight's icebreaker activity was just to get you all comfortable, just to relax you all as we're about to get into a topic that's, what we'll say, it's a little bit heavy. But we just want you all to know that we're in here tonight and we're here to have a conversation. We're not here to judge anyone. We're not here to attack anyone. We're just here to talk about trauma and what exactly trauma is. So if you all have any questions that you want to ask during the sessions, you all can show by the raising of your hands, and a floating microphone is going to come to you and you can ask questions and you can share. All right, so we're going to delve in a bit now into trauma. So when you all hear the word trauma, tell me what comes to mind.
Pain.
Yes, and that's one, yes. Yes, that's one. That's also one as well. Yes, that's one as well.
Undealt issues.
Yes, that's one as well. All right. Is there anybody else? Yes, memories is one.
Paranoia.
Yes, paranoia is one.
Depression.
Yes, depression is one. All right. Okay, so can you just turn your eyes to the screen while we delve in, and let me share with you all exactly what trauma is. And yes, trauma is anxiety, it's depression, it's all of those negative feelings. So trauma is when we experience very stressful, frightening, distressing events which are difficult for us to cope with or out of our control. These events could be one incident or a series of different events occurring over a long period of time. Trauma, as the Greek word will derive, or in other words associated with, it's a wound. So when we look at trauma is what we would say, it's an experience. And oftentimes this experience is one that can be very stressful. It can be one that's very frightening. It can be one that's very distressing. And more so, as you all rightfully said, it can be very painful. Trauma, or in other words, when you experience trauma or when you experience negative things in your life, somehow it has a tendency to occur in a series. So one day you find yourself experiencing one bad situation, and then another day you find yourself experiencing another bad situation. And sometimes these situations occur for a very long time, and they're not just distressing, but they're painful. So I heard sis said, yes, true. Can you, share what, or we're just going to open the floor. When you talk about distressing situations or painful situations, can you all tell me, give me some examples? Situations that can be stressful, that can be frightening, that can be painful.
Go ahead.
I think, well, I could only make it personal, like growing up and wanting to do something so bad, but my parents was not financially able to assist me in that area, so it became very stressful.
All right. So we have financial challenges. All right, yes.
Abandonment or caused by the death of a loved one, or sometimes, loved ones, abandonment by loved ones.
Yes, abandonment and death of the loved one. That's two key situations that can create a bit of a, what we'll say, an anxiety, or it can create a bit of a problem. Because when you lose somebody, sometimes at the end of the day, if you lose somebody, you expect that death, it can be a little bit different compared to when you don't expect the death of that person. So yes, abandonment and loss of that loved one. Yes, sis.
Rape or molestation.
Yes, and those are two, what we'll say, key situations that we often find ourselves in. Because we're going to be real here tonight. Rape is real. Childhood abuse is real. Abandonment is real. And when we experience these negative situations, sometimes it's difficult for us to cope. It's difficult for us to process. Because these situations have a way where they occur over and over again. No one expected to get raped. No one expects to be abandoned.
It's okay to answer more than once, right?
It's okay because the floor is open. That's why we're here to have conversations.
Okay. What about emotional and physical abuse? Well, emotional abuse. Could be one physical abuse, sexual abuse. Yeah.
Yes, emotional abuse, physical abuse, because that will fall under. So I'm just going to roll on the screen now. We're just going to look at those different situations that you all would have listed out. So as Sister Candy rightfully said, rape or childhood abuse. No one gets up one morning and said that today they're going to get raped or they're going to be raped. So oftentimes when a rape or childhood abuse occurs, sometimes it's hard to even begin to process. Because when this happens, sometimes it's someone that you love that will do this to you. Someone that you trust. And it takes a little while to be able to comprehend and process it, because when it happens, you're a child. And because you're a child, it's difficult to understand why would, this person who says that they love me will then now touch me, or will then now do things to me that is cruel or unkind. We have domestic violence. I heard you said, sis, the emotional abuse, that physical abuse, that, that social abuse. So sometimes we get into relationships and we have, those partners who tell us that they love us, but they will show it with their face. So they're going to say, I love you now, but I got to put some licks on you sometimes to show my love. So this type of abuse, or in other words, this type of situation or experience can become very overwhelming, because you never went into a relationship with hopes of having that person who says they love you hurt you. And they hurt you in different ways. They tell you things that you're not beautiful. They tell you that you're not intelligent. They tell you that you're no good. And then sometimes what they do, they physically hurt you. They hurt you. Sometimes they squeeze you. They bite you. Because they say, well, that's love. And then sometimes they isolate you from your family. So you have that social abuse. Because they want to just be the ones or the only one who have access to you. Then you have the financial abuse, where they take away the money or they do not allow you access to money. Because, if you have access to money, you are going to feel empowered. You're going to do things, you're going to go places, you're going to make yourself look good. And then we have the spiritual abuse. And all of this is inside of domestic violence. Because the spiritual abuse, they're going to say, oh, where's God now? They're going to show the word of God to you. They're going to tell you all kind of things about the scripture. And they're going to use it against you. So when they say I'm praying, they're going to tell you, where's your God now when you're getting licks? How many of you can relate with what I'm saying here tonight? Because we're here talking about trauma. And trauma is experiences, negative experiences, things that we have gone through and we continue to go through it. We talked about abandonment. Abandonment, as you know, sometimes you have a parent who may just leave you as a child. Mom left you for reasons beyond your control. Dad left you. Boyfriend left you. Girlfriend left you. And all of these are negative experiences. And sometimes these things happen over a period of time. We have death of friends and family members. Another major traumatic, what we'll say, episode or traumatic situation Because when you have lost somebody, it's a bit different when that person, you didn't expect them to die. And sometimes it's a little bit challenging to process, them not being around anymore. Sometimes it's an unexpected death. Sometimes it's a death where, you saw the person today and then tomorrow they died. So that's a little bit challenging to process or to even understand or to even comprehend. Then you have that death where, you expected that person to die. So that process is a little bit different. Because then you can then now say, I know the person wasn't feeling well, and I saw the signs, so I can prepare myself mentally, emotionally for their passing. Then we have a loss of job. How many of you all can relate to this at some point in your lives? You have a sister to the back there, and what I like about you all in this room is that you all are honest. Because to be able to deal with these experiences, we're going to get into those solutions. I want to jump ahead. So loss of job. That's a negative situation. And if you have lost your job, especially unexpectedly, that could take a toll on you. Because you may have commitments, you didn't expect to lose your job. You probably maybe had kids to take care of, no longer able to have a salary coming in to care for them. And that can be a bit of a trauma. Because you may not have anybody to rely upon. Families may say, well, you're big and you're grown. You make them sure and take care of them. You may not have a father figure, or what we'll say, the father may not be present in their lives. And you have to then now deal with the burden of having to provide for these children. Then we have been diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. And I know sometimes us in the body of Christ, things come at us. And sometimes we could eat well, we could sleep well, we could exercise, we could do everything right. But still go to the doctor, and the doctor said, you've been diagnosed with cancer. You've been diagnosed with, and not just any kind of cancer, for the men, prostate, for the women, breast cancer. Kidneys are failing. And this can be a little bit challenging for you to process because you never expected when you go to do a little checkup to hear the doctor say, hey, things ain't looking too right. And sometimes these situations or events have a tendency of happening one after the next. Sometimes you get raped. Sometimes you're abused domestically, you're abandoned. Loss of friends, loss of jobs, being diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. And all of this can come at you at one time. And it can be difficult to be able to process. And they may happen to you or occur to you over a lengthy period. So from childhood to adolescent period, old age, you're just going through these situations. And sometimes you're going through them and sometimes you have not done anything. But they just occur in your life. And then you're now trying to figure out, how do I process? How do I cope? How do I make sense of these, of these events that keeps occurring in our lives? But when these unfortunate, or in other words, negative situations come at us, I want you all to tell me, and I have the microphone that's floating around the room. What are the types of feelings that you all will feel when, let's say, you've been raped, you've been abused, you've been abandoned, you've experienced the loss of a loved one, you've lost your job, and it's okay, and I commend you, sis, for sharing tonight. Give us some snaps to me, just to encourage her on.
Some of the feelings you'll experience is anxiety, paranoia, depression, sometimes mental instability,
Yes,
mental
insanity.
Mental insanity, yes. Just a few. Sadness.
Thank you for your contributions.
And you can also feel hopeless and lost.
Yes, you can, sis. Thank you for your contributions. All right, we have a sister Denisha in the back. You have your microphone, you could share.
Being raped, feeling lonely, abandoned, depressed, mental disorder.
Yes. And you all are correct. You can continue to share.
Suffering from death of family members, you might feel sadness and loss, could be feeling like you're in a dream, like you can't wake up from, but it's just reality, that it's really happened.
And you are correct. All right, so continue. We're here to share.
Good night. You live in I don't know if bubble is the right word, but in your old world, you're always looking over your shoulder. Everybody looks like a suspect because of the trauma and not getting over. You lost your self-esteem. You question if you're worth anything. If would you ever be loved? Will you ever love? You suffer with rejection from people and rejecting your own self as well.
And you are correct. That's the fear. All right. Say anybody else? Sister Judy.
We experience loneliness, heartbreak, and suicidal thoughts.
Key. Let's keep encouraging our sisters and brothers tonight, yes.
When you're being abused, you feel like if you're nothing. You feel like, you are a mat that anybody could just walk on. You're just like you want to go crazy, and fear overtakes you. That anybody, come to you, you feel so fearful you can't talk to them, or, and that is an experience that you'll never forget.
Sister Mary. Yes, you are correct. Yes, Sister Kimberly.
Falling so deep in a black hole that you don't know yourself anymore.
Thank you, Sister Kim. Yes, Apostle.
Anger. A lot of times when people go through these type of traumas, they are very angry, and hurting people hurt others, so they hurt other people in the process, wanting others to feel their pain.
That's a major one. Hurt people. All right, so we have Sister Avian and Sister Shannon.
Just adding, you carry around a lot of unforgiveness.
That's a major one.
You, like Pastor J now say, you're hurting people. Even so, God bless you with divine persons who could carry you through that journey, and you end up sometimes pushing away the people who really on that journey to help heal.
And that's a major one. All right, so let's Sister Shannon and then Sister Avian.
Sometimes you could end up having trust issues and always living in denial. Somebody new come in your life and it's like, nah, this person can never be genuine. So you tend to always in denial. Nah, man is man, that kind of way. I feel that kind of.
And that's a major one, because it's a bit like what we say, it's too good to be true. Because you've been through so much hurt, so much pain. Could this be the one, or could this be the person who's going to treat me right? So you have all of the memories of the past hurt. Sometimes that plays over in your mind, and sometimes that person may be the right one. But because you have not been able to process that past pain, sometimes it's easy to identify it when it comes in front of you. So everything that person does, it reminds you of that thing that you would have gone through. And sometimes that's because you didn't process, or you didn't really deal with that past relationship and the experiences. So then it means that you're going into cycles. We're going into this relationship, and then that person has to feel the blunt because you didn't deal with what you would have probably maybe gone through in that last relationship. So what we are hearing here tonight, because I'm going to place the list of different names. We have Miss Avian before we proceed to the list, and then I'm going to piggyback on what you guys just shared. Yes, Miss Avian.
I was just about to share what you just shared. Sometimes you don't know how to love again, so therefore you have no emotions.
And that's what negative situations, and we want to just snap encouraging everybody for their contributions. So what Sister Avian just said there, you become what you say, numb. So you really don't know, because this past pain, and if you didn't deal with it the right way, or if you didn't, get the help to process or to talk about, the rape, or to talk about the domestic violence, and to, have somebody help you through each emotion that you may express. Then when that person comes, they're going to get all of the effects of that pain, and they didn't do anything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the effects, and I'm going to ask you guys just to look at the screen. Because what you all did or what you all shared a while ago, they were on point. So what trauma does, or when you experience negative situations, it has a way where if you don't deal with it positively, it's going to begin to deal with you negatively. So you're going to get the anger because when you got raped, that wasn't something that was nice. That wasn't something that you did to deserve that. So you get angry because it hurts, and sometimes the person who did it to you, that person is an adult who you think they're supposed to know better. The depression, the sadness, because every time you think about the hit or the words, it plays over and over in your mind. And trust me, trauma plays and these experiences plays over and over in your mind. Bipolar, as we would say in our, in our normal, pronunciations or languages, emotions, highs and lows. So some days you're happy, and some days you don't want to even talk to anybody. Because the pain of the past, sometimes it gets you down. Because when you're in your quiet times, sometimes the memories tend to play back in your mind of what the partner said to you or what was done to you. So sometimes you don't have happy days. And sometimes people can't understand because you're not telling them that you were raped as a child or you were abused by that partner who said that they love you. Schizophrenia, as we were saying, our psychological jargon, that's hearing voices, and sometimes these voices are negative. So they're going to start to tell you all sorts of things. It was your fault. It was the reason why he beat you is because of what you said. And those voices are going to begin to speak. And that occurs because what trauma does, or what negative experiences would do to your mind after a while, if you keep experiencing something negative, it's going to begin to place a pressure on your thought processes, or what we say on your nerve endings. So after a while, you're just like, pressure just keep applying on your brain, on your mind. It just keeps applying. And then after a while, you just find yourself in a place where, oh my, what's happening here? Why am I hearing thoughts? Why am I hearing things that are telling me to say things and things that are not even correct? That's because you never really positively dealt with that rape. You never positively dealt with that abuse. You never positively dealt with that abandonment. So what begins to happen is that your own thoughts begin to play tricks on you. Start to tell a lot of things that are not even real. We have suicidal thoughts. Because when rape comes, when domestic violence comes, when abandonment comes, these things are painful. And sometimes they're so painful that, you want a mental escape and sometimes a physical escape. So sometimes taking whatever it is, whether it be Gramaxone, whether it be medication, you take it because you want to get out of this life, because the pain, and the pain in this case is the memories. Because what lives in the mind is the memories. So the memories of, as I said, when you went through the abuse, if you don't get help for it, it's going to be in that mind, and it's going to just keep lingering there until the right help comes in. Anxiety and panic attacks. Sometimes you're anxious for no reason. You may think it's no reason, but then if you delve a little bit deeper, you realize it's that situation that you went through way back when you was a child, and you didn't deal with it. So then it begins to just sit there below the carpet and eventually begins to brew. So you don't want to go places, you don't want to do anything. Sometimes your heart starts to race for no reason. And it's linked. It's not just happening because it wants to happen, it's happening because it's coming from a deeper place. That's those traumas, that's those negative experiences. We have silence. One thing these negative experiences love to do is keep us silent. Can anybody relate to what I'm saying? I see you sisters. Let's snap, because we're having real conversations in here tonight. Because what these negative situations do is that they try to take your voice away from you. Your happiness. They don't want you to speak. They want you to say nothing, because the minute you open your mouth, you tell me what's going to come in. What's going to come in when you begin to speak? When you begin to share about what happened to you.
I have 2 questions, right? The first one, I couldn't wait till you finish.
That's okay.
The first one is, could trauma cause the overthinking effect? Because I've found and looked at a lot of times persons who are overthinkers, they would have gone through something traumatic. Could that be a sign of trauma that, and you develop a personality where you're overthinking so much that things that is not even true? And I wanted to ask that concerning the whole hearing negative voices. Could being an overthinker come through the door of trauma? And two, could I develop an introvert personality and say I'm an introvert when I'm really not because of trauma?
All right. So we're going to deal with the first question. And that first question is key because what trauma does, or in other words, what negative situations will do, is that not only will it have you in a place in your mind and tell you that, you know, what you went through, it was your fault. It's going to start to tell you things that are not even, it doesn't make sense. So, yes, it's going to have you at a point where you don't really know yourself. You don't know yourself because what the trauma does, or what that situation does, it continues to eat at you. So it's taking your good thoughts, it's taking your good feelings, it's taking your good relationships. And then after a while, you're at a point where you don't even know who you are. So it isolates you. It silences you. It gets you to a place to have you believing that abnormal is normal. Abnormal thinking is okay. It's okay to think, you know, if I can, what I experienced, it was right. So yes, these situations comes from a deeper place because that is what these negative experiences do if you don't deal with them. So they're going to begin to speak to you. So if you don't deal with the abuse, when the partner told you that, you know, the reason why I'm hitting you is because of something you did. And if you don't get help to be able to have somebody talk to you and let you know, what was said to you, it was not your fault, then it means that that negative voice is going to be dominant. It's going to always keep speaking. And the positive voice is going to be buried because you're not getting positive information coming in. Possibly that answer your question. We have the isolation.
Hi again. In terms of getting beaten because of what you have done, right? Normally, as a child, your parents will correct you. And your parents will correct you in that way. So when you do something that they're not proud of, they would expect you not to do it again once you are corrected. So is it that if you as an individual, you open up to your partner and you explain to your partner what you have experienced as a child, is that a good thing to do? Because if you're not sure of the partner that you have, they may actually repeat the cycle that you went through as a child growing up.
All right, no, that's a good question. You see, you have to be at a place in your life where when you begin to share about childhood, what we say experiences and situations, you have to first of all ask yourself the question, when I share this information to my partner, is my partner going to use this information, against me, one? Is my partner going to be the one who will then now say, okay, because you would know how mature your partner is. If he would be the one who would encourage you and let you know, okay, I am the person, if, you have a shoulder you can lean on. So first before you share, because when you share the information, you have to prepare yourself mentally for what is going to come at you. Because you may have a partner who may, and you may not have known that he may have been somebody who was exposed to abuse. And he may say, she used to get licks, right? Well, right, that is an open door for me to come in. And he's going to then now take that information and he would use it against you, or can use it against you. Because he's going to say, no problem with getting licks. He used to get licks as a child. And how you would share that information if he's not mature to be able to say, what, she's sharing this to me because, she wants me to understand, or help me to understand who she is. So she's telling me how her life was as a child growing up. But then if he's not at that place, maturity-wise, he will take that information and he can't use it against you. That's okay.
Okay, I understand. But let's say it's a scenario where you're in a relationship and you're so in love with your partner that you are blinded. So because you are blinded, the trust for that partner is to the extreme where you express and you let that partner know that information that you had as a child growing up to them because of the trust, the level, and how you are so blinded in the relationship, you don't expect the person to actually turn around and put their hands on you, and you also did not leave room for disappointment because of the level of blindness that you are caught up in.
And that is what when we talked about dealing with trauma or dealing with negative situations. So you see, if let's say you've never gotten the help from the beginning when it occurred, it means that when you get into a relationship, you're kind of going in blind. Because at the end of the day, the person then share with you that if you have a partner, there are certain things, because of the nature of it, they can use it against you, or they can be mature enough to then embrace it. So you may go in blind, and you're going in blind because sometimes you may not have gotten the information to process that past pain. Because if you get the information to process the past pain, when you get into the relationship, although you're blind, you have information that you're going to say, I'm going to be mindful in terms of what I share, because if I share, then this is what may happen. So blind is figuratively. But then there are times when you deal with the trauma, you're equipped with the information. So you know, okay, if I share this to him, the possibility exists that he's going to probably maybe react this way or react that way. So it's getting the information, and it's all about dealing with that pain or dealing with that past. So if you don't get the help to deal with it, then it means that when you share blindly, sometimes the outcome is not going to be too nice. Did I answer your question, Sister Kim? All right, so we have stress and development of diseases. So just as much as what we'll say being diagnosed with a near-death experience or a near-death disorder, that can be traumatic or trauma because you never expected to be diagnosed. But then having the information of this diagnosis could also create further sicknesses. So you get diagnosed with cancer. And what begins to happen, or you begin to start to worry. So your cortisol levels, your stress levels begin to increase. And then next thing, you're not only dealing with cancer, but you're dealing with high blood pressure. You're dealing with diabetes. Because trauma or getting information that's negative, it can create other issues in your body. You have obsession and fears. I heard one of you all share that in the room tonight. Obsessions and fears. Obsessions meaning you probably would have experienced, trust issues where your partner may have been unfaithful. So then you're in this new relationship now and you're obsessed. You don't want the man to put on the phone. You don't want the woman to put on her phone because you just want to be everything they do, you're monitoring it. You're obsessed. You just can't accept that this relationship may be a good one. But because you didn't deal with that infidelity or with that trust issue, it means that every little thing looks similar, or it looks like a red flag, or it looks like something you went through. So your mind now begins to tell you a lot of things, and sometimes most of these things your mind is telling you they're not correct. Sometimes it's just the unresolved trauma or the negative situations that you didn't deal with. They are speaking to you. You have the fears. You don't want to get into a relationship. You don't want to come out of the house. So you may have experienced child sexual abuse. You experienced domestic violence and you didn't deal with it. You didn't deal with the feelings that were associated with this situation. So you're locked up in a home. You don't want to look outside because you fear the person who abused you might be outside around the corner. And this is all in your mind. Mind is just telling you all these things. Because you didn't get the help to process and say, you know what, we're going to get help to deal with these fears that you have. So because you didn't get the help, the negative experiences begin to speak. Unhealthy vices. So one thing we love to do, and we're going to say we because we are all in this room tonight and we have all gone through something. So we're dealing with the rape, we're dealing with the domestic violence, the abandonment, we're using the drinking, the smoking, the gambling, the having sexual partners because of why. Can somebody tell me why tonight? Why? Trauma. And because what begins to happen is when we engage in these activities, they have a way that they take the pain away. Let me ask you all a question. Do they take the pain away permanently or temporarily? And that is what happens when you don't deal with these negative experiences in the right way. So the alcohol becomes the comfort food. The smoking becomes the comfort drug. Because when you take a little smoke, it just take your mind off of things. When you get up in the morning, the problem is still there. So it only makes the trauma or the negative experiences worse. So Sister Natasha had a question to ask.
Not really a question, but it was more a statement. Or because as a parent as well, you may not have gone through the trauma, but your child would have gone through the trauma. And I can speak from experience. Your child would have gone through the trauma. So because your child would have gone through the trauma, you now become so overprotective that you don't even want the child to go nowhere. You don't want the child to talk to nobody. You become now the dominant one that you don't even know that you're abusing this child.
Wow. And again, now what you said, Sister Natasha, it's important because you may not have gone through that traumatic experience, but the child may have gone through it. Now, if you're the parent and the child has gone through it, and if you didn't get the help to be able to support that child, then it means that you become a problem to that child, because if you got the right help, then it means that you have been equipped to then now provide the right support system for that child. So when you see certain signs in that child, you would say, okay, let me give you a hug, or let's probably maybe do something that's fun. So that at the end of the day, the protective covering may then now create more harm than good for that child. Because at the end of the day, the child may say, Mommy is smothering me. Because you, mom, didn't get that, what we'll say, support.
If your family member or someone in close relationship with you goes through trauma, depending on the situation, even the family members also, the trauma would affect them, and also it is a traumatic experience because something happening to your loved one could directly and indirectly affect you, and it could be trauma for you first. Because if your family member dies, you didn't die, but it hurt you, and your family member could be raped and it could hurt you, or your daughter could be molested and you could even be in a worse place than the person that was actually dealt with. So both of them is trauma.
And what you're saying, Brother Giovanni, you are correct, because it come like, a cause and effect. So because you're in that environment, it's a spillover because that person means something to you. And that is why when we talk about dealing with these negative situations, it's important to, get the help. So if, let's say, you have a family member who would have been raped, now when help comes in, they're not just going to deal with the victim alone, they're going to also deal with the family. Because you, the family, would know, okay, I have to provide support. And the only way to provide this support is that I have to be equipped. So when you get the help, they're going to probably maybe tell you to look at signs, things that, you need to pay attention to. Sometimes the person may not want to talk. So you can't, want to talk to them at that point in time. You have to give them a little space. So it means that if you don't get the help, then it means that it can affect you too. And it's going to play on your mind because you're going to get angry. And then you probably will want to go and deal with the person who hurt them and problems and all because you didn't deal with the trauma. So when you get the help, then it means that you're better equipped to then now say, okay, all right, I could be the support system for, my sister or my mom. So that they're not alone, because during that time, they would need this support now more than ever. So if you don't get this support, then it means that that victim also would then now be both of you all kind of going through, and then nobody gets the help. All right, we see another hand, Sister Chanel.
Question. If you would have done all the necessary things to get heal in terms of you went counseling to deal with your traumas, but you are still in an environment with persons who continuously do things, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, to put you back in that place or trigger back those things or remind you of, hey, remember this, remember that, and take you back to that place. How do you now deal with it?
All right, now, what you're asking there is a very key questions, because you have a lot of factors and things that we have to take into consideration in terms of, I heard you said that you're in an environment. So we first of all have to examine, why are you in the environment? Is it an environment where you have made a choice, whether it be a marriage, and being in that environment, all right, have you and your partner, let's say, sought, what we'll say, I heard you said you sought counseling, but they continue to tell you things to have you in that place. Now, if you're at a place where you are in an environment and you have been told negative things, have you asked yourself the key question, is this an environment that is healthy for me? Because I'm asking you the question because you gave the information, so I just want to make sure that, I'm taking everything into consideration. So the environment, is it one where it's an environment where you are married in the environment? Is it an environment? Right, so it's not a marital environment. Tell me a little bit more about that environment.
Family-wise, where when certain things just start to manifest, I would go to my mom with stuff, and instead of expecting her to, Mommy, well, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is what I'm willing to do to deal with what I'm going through. It's like when anger comes, she would remind me of things or call me names or you wouldn't be this and it's good for you and I'd tell you this would have happened to you and that kind of situation.
All right, thank you for giving me a little bit more information. Now, when you're in an environment like that, you remember you can't control everybody's response because people are people and they're going to have their thoughts, have their feelings. So I heard you said you'd have been in therapy. Now, when in therapy, the most challenging situations are going to come at you because when in therapy, you're going to be equipped with tools or things that you can do to face situations that you're going to come up. So you're in the environment and mom is telling you all these belittling things. Do you know that you're strong? Do you know that you're an overcomer? Because the information that you would have learned in therapy, that is the time you begin to practice it. Because you've got to be able to put it into work even before and even while in the situation. Because you are going to meet people, or in this case your mom, who would tell you all the belittling things. But because you've gone through therapy, it means that you were given information to then now say if somebody tells you that you're unworthy, you're going to tell yourself that I am worthy. So it means that when you're in the environment with mom would say what she needs to say to you, but then you got to be able to draw on those tools and apply them at that point in time. Because if you don't apply them, then it would mean that the therapy didn't make any sense because you were equipped with the tools to apply it at that point in time. Because if you, for a minute, begin to listen to what mom said, then it's going to take you back to that mental place. So you have to ask yourself the question, do I like going to that mental place of hurt and all these negative things, or do I like to feel good? So it means that it will take a drawing from you now to say, I remember the therapist would tell me to probably maybe say these things. And when I say them, I realize I don't really feel so, hurt. So even though mommy tells me this is the time for me to say it. And sometimes you got to keep saying it until it registers in your mind, because you remember you're already going through a battle in your mind because of that trauma and that pain and all those things. So mommy is going to say things to you to re-trigger that response, just to get you to get angry and have you say all kind of things. So it will require you to be practical, take the information and apply it, not just in words but in physical actions. Have that answered the question? Okay. All right. Microphone for Brother Javan.
I was wondering if I could help the sister answer
Yes,
the
you
question. I've come to learn that I heard someone said once that if you think health is expensive, sickness is even more expensive, and getting healed is even more expensive. So bear the cost of remaining healthy, because sickness is worse. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when you're in unhealthy situations or circumstances, pay the price to become healed or get healed, or get information, or surround yourself with help. I have come to realize that Tobago is a very unhealthy place and most families are very unhealthy, if not all. And many of us grew in dysfunctional families where parents, loved ones, etc. So if you see someone rising and excelling beyond the boundaries of their household and community, it's God. And that person knows God. And it's even as bad as some people that know God still having a hard time. So personally, what I have done in relation to the question, I have gone seeking healthy people, healthy environments. I realize when you're seeking help or you're seeking healing for a particular issue, it's very important not to keep going back into places that will recontaminate you. For example, if you're healing your ankle, I wouldn't expect to see you jumping on the ankle. So for a while, you'll be off the ankle. So for example, if you're living in a household with unhealthy people, I'm not saying to disown them or totally turn away from them. They are your family members regardless, but I think you should invest in some time spending with healthy people, talking to psychologists and counselors, finding videos, YouTube, create an environment that could bring cushion into the area that you want healing in. And I believe over time you could become so healthy and strong that you could actually live and survive and strive in that same environment and even change those same people.
Brother Giovanni, well said. So you become what you call an environment changer. Thank you for that contribution, Brother Giovanni. Sister Denisha, yes, you can share.
Sister Semerete, just asking, from being at a point of being sexual abuse, and it's like you find a partner and you're having sexual intercourse with a partner, and it's like that trauma of that person, that reflection of that person, that you had, that guys. How do you actually deal with that?
All right, and we're getting into the solutions here. So I'm going to answer that question with the solutions, because dealing with rape and as you're sharing, having sex with that partner and then seeing the visual imagery of the person, or what we'll say the perpetrator, it's a process. So I'm going to go into the solutions and answer your question while sharing the solutions. Yes, Sister Sophia. So then hold on to your seat. We get into the answer to that question.
Good night, everyone. As we reach solutions, just before we go on. Sorry, trauma. Sorry. Yes. Avoidance. I'm not sure if that was there. Why I say avoidance in terms of the effects of trauma. Sometimes we go through trauma and we don't even know, in the sense that, for example, the effects of it is anger. So I'm always angry. But I'm telling myself it has nothing to do with what I experience. It's actually, Sister Esmeralda did me something, I have a reason to be angry, I'm always snapping at people. But it's because of actually what I've been through. But I haven't come to terms with what I've been through. I haven't even, right outside, denial, avoidance. So I'm not too sure if that was in one of the categories there. But how do you know or reach to a point where you can admit to yourself the effects of trauma, which is, for example, we use the first one on the list, which was anger. My anger is actually because of what I've been through.
Now, what we do, well, I'm just going to zoom in on you here, Sister Sophia. When we have experienced traumatic situations in our lives, the quickest thing that we can do is shove it under the carpet. Because it's easier to deal with it in that way because it feels safer, it feels better. But then when we shove it below the carpet and life it, what begins to happen is that you begin to see it rise from below that carpet. And you find yourself just reacting in anger. You fly off the handle and you want to know, people want to know, well, what happened to Sister Sophia? Now, we are going back to the beginning. If you did not get the right help, right, you may not know, but then when people are around you and they begin to look at you and they begin to say, Sister Sophia, why are you flying off the handle? Right, right. And that is what unresolved traumas tend to do. It tend to have you seeing everybody as the problem, and you're not the problem. So it takes us here into solution number 1, and I want you all to take some notes because these solutions are very practical. So you have something called a sense of reasoning. Do you all know what the sense of reasoning is? Oh boy. Sense of reasoning. It's an ability that we all have, and I can probably, delve into the Bible here a bit. Blind man Bartimaeus was blind, but even blind man Bartimaeus had a sense of reasoning. Because what blind man Bartimaeus would have recognized within himself was that although he had the ability to hear, within himself he said, you know what? I'm hearing that Jesus the healer is passing. I can't see, but based on what I'm hearing, I recognize that he's the healer and I'm blind and I need help. For us, the sense of reasoning is our ability to be able to tap in to what you'll call our sense of honesty. So Sister Sophia is saying that she doesn't know that she needs help. You're just flying off the handle and everybody is the problem. Sense of reasoning can be activated. And how do we activate this sense of reason? Because it's a part of us where many of us sometimes don't know how to really utilize our abilities to reason. Because what negative situations tend to do is that it takes away our ability to make sense out of things that have occurred in our lives. So tonight, what we are doing, we are going to activate our sense of reasoning. Because for Sister Sophia, it's important for that sense of reasoning to be activated because it can be the tool or the key to helping you to solve that anger problem. So sense of reasoning is activated. And how do we activate it? It's something where we spend 5 to 10 minutes out of our busy days. Are you all taking notes? Because this is practical. I'm going to come back here and find out from you all how many of you all apply these solutions, because we are about changing behaviors tonight, changing thoughts. So the sense of reasoning, that this can be activated by us spending 5 to 10 minutes of our day in places which makes us feel comfortable. So whether it be our bedroom, our bathroom, our vehicle, our prayer rooms. And in these rooms, what we do is that we remain silent. Do you all ever observe that when you all are silent, there are a lot of things that tends to go through in all our minds? Well, let's kind of hear all the thoughts. Let's hear the thoughts when they're silent. So in this quiet place where you all are able to, just be in touch with your thoughts, you're able to begin to do what we call reflections. So 5 to 10 minutes of the day, you all can try this. And you begin to ask yourself some questions. How am I doing? When was the last time some of you all asked yourselves this question? How am I doing? How am I doing? Because sense of reasoning allows us to begin to, examine ourselves. Begin to look within ourselves. When we are in a quiet place, we are connected to our thoughts. So we're asking the question, how am I doing? Because the only person who could tell you about how you're doing is you. I can't tell you how you're doing, Sister Sophia. I can't tell you how you're doing. You got to tell me how you are doing because you're in touch with yourself, with your thoughts, with your feelings. So how am I doing? That's one question you ask yourself while you are in this quiet place. Am I responding well to situations that I'm faced with, Sister Sophia? Are you responding well to situations that you're faced with? And I'm just directing it to you because of what you shared a while ago where everybody had a problem and not you. So in this quiet space, you are able to begin to ask yourself questions. So when you're in your bathroom, you say, well, you know that situation that, I was in church the other day and them girl tell me something and I just find myself flying off the handle. Because when you are in your quiet moments, you are able to connect with your thoughts. So the question again, am I responding well to situations facing my life? If you're not able to answer this question, then it means that you've got to really dig some more. Because these questions are reasoning questions with yourself. You're not reasoning with anybody on the outside. You're getting in tune with the internal person. Then we have, do I need help to deal with things facing my past or present? Because the sense of reasoning works so well with honesty. So I would have shared the demonstration with blind man Bartimaeus. He got help because he utilized his sense to hear. So his sense to hear was coupled, with that sense of reasoning. And the sense of reasoning is coupled in this case with your ability to be honest. So in order for you to really be able to answer these questions, it means that you will have to be honest with yourself. You will have to say, listen to me, I really struggling in that situation I go through when I was a child, it's still bothering me. Because if we keep putting these things on the carpet, if you take a look at this young lady on the photograph there, she's well dressed. So externally she have on all the makeup, she pretty looking. But then look at what is on her back. Because we are pretty on the outside, but internally we are broken, we are scarred. So it means that to be able to really deal with these negative situations in our lives, from the rape to the abandonment, we got to begin to start to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we have to look ourselves like this lady here in the mirror. And we have to say, you know what, I'm really struggling, and I really need help. Because I'm going to tell you all this. If you all do not deal with these negative situations, they are going to seep through and they're going to begin to deal with you. They're going to deal with you on your jobs. They're going to deal with you in ministry. They're going to deal with you in your home. They're going to deal with you, oh God, in your relationships, in public. So, Sister Sophia, I'm sorry to draw on you, but that illustration was just so amazing. So I said the solutions is here. So it means that you're going to find yourself flying off the handle and people are going to see you. But then you ain't going to see yourself because you are saying nothing wrong with me. Because that sense of reasoning, it's no longer there. So you can't even make sense when you're flying off the handle. And that may have occurred because of something you went through. That you never said, oh gosh, this thing bothering me and I need to get help. Because when we begin to become honest with ourselves, it means that we could say, I need help. So blind man Bartimaeus, he was honest with himself and he said he need help. And what he did, he cried out and help came. So we could see you need help, but if you don't see you need help, then how then are we going to help you? So dealing with those negative situations will require you all to activate your sense of reasoning as well as, come on. So what I want you all to do for me here, I know that you all have your mobile devices. So we're going to get practical with this second solution. So if you could take your phones out and you could be able to turn on the camera. You're looking handsome and pretty all up in here. So we want you to turn on the camera. I want that camera to be faced on you all if you have your phones. That's all right. That's okay. Right. You can ask questions, sister.
Hi. Right. Relative to Sister Sophia's question, right, not directly yourself, but how do you or can you convince someone, okay, let's say a friend, for example, that they are traumatized and needs to get help? Like, the person in their mind don't believe that way, right? But you listening to some things that they would have gone through, or you probably know them personally and know some of the things that they went through, and you believe in your mind that that is probably the reason why they act a particular way, but in their mind they don't have anything to do with it. Is there any way that you could convince somebody then, or what can you do to let a person realize that, yeah, you need to get help?
As I will share with Sister Sophie, we can see we need help, or persons could see we need help. But if they themselves, because part of the helping process is that they're going to be part of it, they're going to be willing. Because if, let's say, you come and you say, girl, you know you need to get help. You remember you were the one who saw she needs help. She didn't see she needs help. So as a friend, yes, you're going to be concerned because there's some things that she may be saying. So you're giving her the information. But then if she doesn't take that information, then she can't get help. But let's say she takes the information and she goes into therapy and get help. But then while in the sessions now, the counselor is giving her work to do. She said, you know what, I only here because Sister Shannon sent me here. So she's not really there because she wants to be there. She's only there because you saw. So it means that they putting in the work is going to be a bit of a challenge, because if in her mind, she hasn't made up her mind to say, I need the help. Getting the help in is another process. So it means that, yes, you could do the friend thing and share the information with her. But helping and getting that real help, she's going to have to get on board. So that's why this sense of reason is very important, because persons got to be able to be honest. So that's why spending that time, that 5 to 10 minutes out of your day is very important, because it gives you an opportunity to be able to connect, to wake up that sense of reason that was not active. Because negative situations can, what we'll say, it could silence the reasoning abilities. And you're no longer able to make sense out of certain situations. So yes, we have Brother Giovanni. Sure.
I have a question to piggyback on Sister's question there. And I also have a small 2 cents on the question she asked. Well, in psychology, they teach you that if a person doesn't want counseling, the counseling would not work. For example, if a criminal does a crime and you send him to counseling, you know, you could just have somebody just wasting their time and he isn't receiving the help, as you rightfully said. They wouldn't take part and he would need it to be healed. So the question is, how does one help themselves from not ending up traumatizing themselves? Because a lot of us live in areas and spaces and have family members who are hell-bent in their ways to be who they are. They are not honest with themselves. They know they need help, but pride is still the strong man in their mind, the stronghold, and they refuse to move and change, and you know they need change, and you are feeling pressure and all sorts of things because the person, you know, you have to live, you have to deal with them. So how do we as individuals remain healthy, dealing with individuals who are hell-bent in being sick?
All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to answer that in solution 3, because it talks about taking care of self. Because if you don't take care of yourself and you keep pouring into these family members, yes, we want all of our family members to get help and be delivered. But if they have made a choice and say, this is the path I'm going on, it means that you're just going to just keep drawing from you. And then after a while, mentally, emotionally, you're going to be so drawn out that you can't even help yourself. So when we delve into solution 3, it's going to talk about self-care and taking care of self, because you got to be able to know, all right, there comes a point in time where I have to be able to check in with me. I have to be able to say, I'm going to take a day for me to really just unwind. Because when you begin to pour out, it takes from you. And if you keep pouring out, you're going to end up like an empty glass with nothing, and the same family members are going to say, look at you. You're trying to help me, but you yourself look like you need help. So it means that self-care, and I'm going to just go through it in solution 3 and equipping you and showing you how you can be able to do those things to help you. All right, so if we could, you know, get into your phone, as, you know, I was sharing, phone in terms of your camera. I see Sister Candy. Yes, Sister Candy, you have your cameras on. So solution 2, we're going to get into having the phone and the camera, because what we're going to be doing here is a practical activity that when it comes to dealing with negative situations like rape and domestic violence and abandonment, what these negative situations love to do, they love to speak to you. They love to tell you, well, the reason why you got raped, it was your fault. The reason why you got licks, it was your fault. The reason why, your parents would have said the things and done all these things is because it was something you did. Now I'm going to speak to the 2 most important situations, which is domestic violence and child sexual abuse. Now I'm going to tell you all this. Nobody has the right to touch you in a manner that is not right. Nobody has the right to violate you. No means no. Nobody has the right to hit you. And you don't have the right to hit nobody. So I'm going to say that again. You don't have the right to hit nobody, and nobody has the right to hit you. Because if somebody loves you, they're not supposed to show it with their face. They show it with their words. If they have a problem expressing something and they need some help, get some professional counselors who could come in and teach them how to deal with conflict resolution. So see Jamali clapping, so Jamali knows what we're speaking about here tonight. So we're going to look at ourselves, in that camera. Because that camera is just a demonstration of an actual, what we'll say, mirror. Because we got to begin to take these negative situations and we're going to speak to them. Because what rape is going to do is going to tell you it's your fault. So if we look at this picture here with this young girl and you're seeing her in her adult state and we're seeing that child crying, that child is telling her something. It's speaking to her. Because she never really dealt with the rape. She never really processed it. She never really said, well, I didn't get any help, but if she had spoken to somebody, they would have told her, it was not your fault why you were raped. It was not your fault why you got licks. So she would have gone through her life with this belief that what she experienced, she did something wrong. So the rape spoke to her and continues to speak to her. And after a while, it began to play in her mind and make her feel not nice or not beautiful. It made her feel ugly. It made her feel unclean. Because that is what these situations do. They make you feel not beautiful. So you look at yourself in the phone tonight and I want you to repeat after me. And it could be anything. You could put in, I'm not saying to say it out loud, but when you're in your home, you look yourself in your mirror and we're going to start tonight and we're going to say, it was not my fault. And the it, as I said, this is just us just speaking these things. It was not my fault. And the thing about this is just saying it sometimes, it tends to help us to make sense when things don't make sense. So the rape may speak or the abuse may speak. And you may say, but I did nothing to deserve this. I didn't do nothing. But it's speaking loud and it's saying it's your fault. You deserve this. So when you begin to speak back through it positively, after a while you're going to convince yourself. And you're going to begin to believe what you are telling yourself after a while. So I want you all to, to begin to do it. I am seeing you all looking like, well, real participating, all so eager. Look at eagerness. Looking at all the phone. Wonderful. So it was not my fault. And this can also be incorporated with other words. Like I am beautiful. When was the last time I told yourself all are beautiful? Because the partner who would have beaten us would have told us, oh, they're not beautiful, they're ugly, or not bright. So when you speak these words, you are saying it to yourself, I am beautiful. I am intelligent. I am strong. Because negative words and negative situations will play on your mind and have you believing that you are no good, you are nobody. But when you begin to speak back to yourself, it empowers you. I'm seeing this. Mom. Okay. All right, so we have solution number 3, which we are winding down to the solutions. And Brother Giovanni, you asked a question when it came to, your family members and you are there pouring into these family members and they're drawing from you. So learning to love yourselves. So negative situations take something from you. They take, that self-love. They take your confidence. It takes your strength. So the domestic violence, the abandonment, these things take because their mission is to take. They keep taking from you and then eventually leave you with nothing. and sometimes leave you with negative things, negative feelings. So trauma can take away self-love, confidence, strength, and it can create, what we say, a loss of identity, a hate in you, a lack of confidence. So all of a sudden you're not confident anymore. You want to know why it is that you're so, when you're going to a room, you want to sit far, far, far to the back. You don't want to come to the front. So what we do when it comes to learning to love yourself, you got to get to know yourself. When was the last time some of you all took yourselves out? Took yourselves out to probably maybe an ice cream date. Probably maybe went to the mall, buy a little jersey for yourself, a little pants. Learn to love all yourself, because these negative situations are going to begin to tell you, oh, you're not strong, or you're weak. So when you get in tune with loving yourself, it simply means taking yourself out. Because if you take all yourself out, who else will take all you out? Or looking for the boyfriend to carry you out, or look for this one. But what about you all doing it for yourselves? Because this is how you all get to love upon yourself. Because if you don't love upon yourself, then it means that negative situation is going to begin to continue to love upon you and tell you all kind of negative things. So explore a hobby, not a hobby like a husband, but a hobby in terms of a sport. Many of you all are into, extracurricular activities, cooking, exercising, doing a kitchen gardening. And all of these things is, it helps to build your self-esteem. It helps to, make you feel confident. When you can say this evening I'm going to take a little jog, a little exercise, write, sew, dance, play an instrument. Because all of these things are what you do when it comes to you loving yourself. Because when you love yourself, you'll want to explore, that inner you, tap into things in yourself. Some of us have a lot of skills that we have never tapped into. So if we love ourselves, we're going to then now say, we could challenge ourselves and try these things. Because if we don't, we'll just sit down and have the negative thoughts and the feelings in our mind playing over. So what we do now, we channeling it into some positive areas. So then we could then now have things that's creative, have things that's good. So when we're feeling sad, rather than sitting down and worrying about that, relationship that didn't work out, you say, what, let me see if I can probably maybe do a little, writing or dancing. Let me channel the energy into some positive spaces. Improve on our skills, our academics. Pursue a course. Yes, Pastor G.
Want to ask a question here. Thinking for the armor of men, right? We always hear, women and trauma. Or we see the feminine aspect of women are always quicker to say, I've been through something abusive, I need help. Men, on the other hand, may not admit they have anything traumatic. Can you help men identify what trauma can be for men? Because women have been suffering for years from men who have traumatic identities. They build their identities around their trauma. They build the way they love around trauma. They build the way how they speak from trauma. They build the way even their confidence from trauma. And for somehow our society sees trauma for men neutralized. It's as if men don't have trauma, but women do. How do we help men identify they have been through traumatic things? Things have gone wrong in their childhood or their lives, and they need to address it. That's my question.
Thank you, Apostle, for sharing that question and I was asking that question. Now, we are in this space here tonight, and it's difficult for us to be honest with ourselves, because I can't know what you have gone through if you don't share. I can draw you out with questions. Now, the sense of reasoning where we would have tapped into in the beginning, it acts as a guide, because women, we see men as tough because that's how men were raised from childhood. If a boy fall long, get up, don't cry. So men have learned to internalize their emotions. So when it comes to really, being emotional, they say, well, I have an ego and I'm not going to do that. So when we come into circles like this and when we have those support groups like we have in Restorers here, the Arm Off group, that men's group, we have, areas where men can really, what we'll say, share or a safe space. So you have persons who will come in and you will begin to let them know it's okay to talk because, first of all, you have to create a safe space for men. You can't have men in an open where everybody know their business and they're just talking. You got to, first of all, let them know we're in a space that's safe. And we are not here to judge you. We are not here to come at you. We are here to help. So support groups works. And the support groups whereby you have persons who will come in and who would begin to share signs. So if, like tonight when Sister Sophia was speaking about flying off the handle, a little quickly, and she didn't see anything wrong with that. For a man, he may do the same. So you begin to share. There are times that you may fly off the handle. So you begin to have conversations with him and begin to draw. So draw them out, ask questions. So tell me, have you ever found yourself reacting in that way before? Because you can't just tell a man something without finding out exactly what that man has gone through. Because then you'll come as if you want to tell the man what to do. So you got to be able to build a rapport, build a kind of like a communication with that man, make him feel comfortable. And then he's going to then now say, well, okay, I could open up to you. Because we all have gone through situations, and it's just that some of us are good at masking. Some of us are good at putting things under the carpet and existing and looking normal. But then in the end, we're really struggling. So for a man, if you really get him to open up, he's going to share information. And then from there, you begin to guide him. You begin to explore with him things that he can do. Instead of flying off the handle with a fist, could say, okay, let's talk about probably maybe some inhalation exercises, breathing in, breathing out, taking a little walk, avoiding certain situations that may trigger that response. And then begin to build him up. Because men may use fists as a way to show their manhood. So then explore with them, okay, we could, rather than hitting, we could probably maybe explore another positive way to release that anger.
To add to the question, I believe that most men, a vast majority of them, they are aware of what they are suffering from. They know. So it's a case of getting them to come to the point where they are willing to accept the help. So you would tell them, I think I need to invite a counselor, yes? And they may say, or say, we may say, nah, nothing is wrong with me. And in the Tobago space, we will hear the term, we don't believe in counseling. And in psychology, it teaches that there is a myth in psychology that only sick people need psychology.
That's true, that's true.
Why everybody needs psychology and counseling. So I've come to realize that helping men is, as you rightfully said, is a covert, or it's an undercover thing you need to do. In other words, you need to come from a perspective where the person that you are trying to help, to some extent, you can't blatantly tell them that you are trying to help them in terms of, as you rightfully said, if you come off as though you are trying to tell them what to do, they would automatically put up their guards, pride will take front, and they will resist you. So, my question to you, to add to the question, how can we, I don't want to use the word manipulate, I don't want to use the word lie either, but how do we be the best of both worlds, not lying and manipulate? But how can we help someone without blatantly saying that, hey, I'm helping you, I'm trying to help you, but at the same time, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, that this thing is hurting you, it's hurting me, and some change needs to happen.
Thank you, Brother Giovanni, for that question as well as, the contributions. So what we do in a case where you want to help, but you don't really want to come at the man and have him feel like we want to tell him what to do. Sometimes when a man may do something for so long, after a while it becomes normal, and abnormal become normal. So we got to begin to share with him what normalcy looks like. And conversations, sharing with him. Do you know that when you spoke to that, your wife in that tone, do you know that it would have affected or it would have hurt her? Because for him, he may think, well, as a man, I could raise my voice and I could tell you what I want. So what you do now, you begin to now explore, different ways to respond. And as I said, you don't tell him, you begin to do the dance. So you put it out there to him and you say, so if, let's say, next time she comes at you and she says something, rather than tell her no good, say, girl, you have a soft approach. So you begin to now teach, but not teach to, to belittle, but teach to uplift. And you give practical information. And it will take a little walk, because after a man has learned certain things, it takes a while for them to unlearn it. So that's why we'll have those support groups, so they will come in with other men who may experience the same situations and they gain that support. So they're not alone in the process. So like Arm-Off group here in Restorers, they come into the group and you have persons who come in who will work with the men and work with their emotions and equip them and then give them practical things and have them come back and talk about when they applied it, how did it assist them and how did they feel. That answer your question, brother? All right, so we have the support groups. It's important to be able to recognize that what these negative situations in our lives loves to do is that it loves to tell us that we are alone. So if it is already decided to open up and talk about the rape or the abuse or the negative words spoken, persons are going to look at you in a negative way. And that is just negative information. So support groups helps you to be able to have a safe space. We have in Restorers here, we have the women's group, the men's group, the mentorship group. The mentorship group whereby you all could come in and we could talk and we could find similarities, because sometimes when we begin to share in these support groups, we recognize that we are not alone. Recognize that there are other men and women who would have gone through things that we have gone through, and they are also struggling. So sometimes you get strength in these groups, because you could have persons who could pray with you. You have persons who could be able to, call and check in on you. Persons who could do activities with you, so that you have what you call a circle of positive influences, just as Brother Giovanni was sharing. So it means that it's no longer a lonely process when it comes to dealing with those negative things in your life. And with prayer, as you all know, we are all believers. Prayer, we can do nothing without Christ. So as we go before God, we rest all of our burdens at the foot of the cross, and we allow God to come in and help us through. Sometimes we may not want to open up just right away. So in the safety of our prayer room, in our bedrooms, in our private spaces, we talk to God, because we know that the word of God says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. This is my comfort in my affliction, for your word has given me life, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So for many of you all, you'll have your go-to scriptures that you're going to go to build that strength and to get strength when things seem like it's a little bit overwhelming for you all. Brother Giovanni, you were sharing.
Yes, I have a question. There are so many people who go through trauma. And as you shared the list, there are people who have gone through all the highs and the lows, etc. And there are people who, what can I say? They can't afford counseling, meaning there are plenty of social organizations that present counseling, free counseling. And there are other organizations that you have to pay for counseling. And sometimes people resort to not getting counseling because they find that it's expensive, not only financially, but what it would cost you in time and effort and so on. And sometimes the counseling, from a humanistic perspective, is sometimes limited in terms of someone could go through so much that they, as the Bible says, as David prayed, his spirit was broken. His soul was broken. And my question is, at what point does one understand or come to the place where they realize that the trauma that I've gone through is gone beyond man, or gone beyond what counseling could help? Or how does the counselor come to the place where they realize that this person probably has gone beyond me and psychological capabilities, and you now need God to fix you or renew your spirit from the inside out? I think did I do well there to ask a question?
Yes, you're asking, a question that what we'll say it's key. Because we know that when it comes to issues of life and issues in general, we can only do so much. We can only do so much. Meaning, God is God, and He is indeed the healer and the deliverer. So even though we will have persons who will come for help, and we are seeing where they're at there, well, in our physical eyes, at their wits' end, that's just in man's terminology. Because in God's sight, He can save all. We can't push and say, well, I think you should do this. But then when it comes to that, because that's our first resort, a middle resort, and a last resort, we can't have God as a last resort at no point. So even from the beginning, we always share with them and let them know that, there is God. Because counseling has come, and I can share even as a professional here, observing how counseling would have been perceived, when I started my profession up until now, and I've been in the profession 10 years plus. Persons had a taboo that counseling was only for mentally ill persons. So now persons will come into sessions and they are going to be saying, listen to me, I only get into because of God. So you're seeing persons are literally bringing the solution of God. Even before you could say, well, hey, let me talk about God. So it means that persons are open now more than ever, to God, because they have experienced God for Himself or for themselves. And they know that when they are going through, that God is that safety net for them. God is the one who will pull them through when they're at their wits' ends and they can't tell everybody. They find comfort in the arms of God. So in a case like that, what I do is that I would then now encourage them and guide them and share with them, all right, you're found, let's see how we could keep you in this direction, because this God works for you. So what you do now when a person tells you this is my way, and if that person doesn't know, then we explore that option, because we can't have persons at a point where you leave them just in the wind, hopeless. Even as Sister Shannon was sharing with a friend, and that's why I share with her, you continue to encourage. Because at some point, you may think, well, it's not working, but at some point it's gonna take a while, but it's gonna click one good day. And then with everything else, you lift her up in prayer. When you pray, you remember her in prayer. So, Brother Giovanni, as you asked the question, nobody's lost. And persons are opening to the counseling to getting help. So it means that we can't leave them by the wayside. If we leave them by the wayside, then that's going to be more problems, because we don't know what they may go and say to others and create further problems. Apostle, yes.
I know time is upon us, but just helping Giovanni question shoot to you. I think he was really trying to get to at what point do we tell people they need deliverance? Because dealing with trauma from the psychological part could only help a person so far. If it goes to a spiritual dimension where taking a day off, self-care, reasoning, all these things are done, but the person is still in what's the right word? A broken state. So they may say, I've tried all these things, I've tried counseling, and it's not working. I think the question is really, at what point, where do you tell that person, hey, your situation is beyond just this, you need deliverance now, because deliverance must be tied in with counseling with trauma. Counseling alone cannot help people with trauma. They must go through the process of deliverance, because we are aware that demons come through traumatic doors.
When you have clients who, or persons who, I wouldn't say this, but when they begin to tell you that they're hearing voices and the voices are telling them to do things that's not positive or things that's negative, because then it means that the mind has gone to a place where it's an open door. So it's now from, as one person is saying, you're now moving from the natural now into a different dimension. Because when voices come in and they begin to tell you to take your life or take the life of your children or take the life of those that are around you, some may explore medications, but then that may create more problems. It may create more problems. So that's when you know you're going to say, listen to me. I believe you need to tap into God quickly. Because the mind, it's unhealthy. And a healthy mind is one that speaks positivity. When the mind begins to get to a place where it begins to speak to you negative things to take your life and that of those around you, then you know, and this is why I'm sharing with you all the importance of getting help. Because if you don't get help for these negative situations, they are going to build and they're going to start to play with the mind. They're going to play with the nerve endings in the brain. They're going to start to play with good, healthy cells in your brain. And when they begin to play with them now, the mind gets sick because you're not at a place where you're healthy to think good thoughts or feel good feelings. So then when the enemy realizes that, he's going to say, whoa, this is an open door here because I already have the trauma door open with that negative situation that I did not deal with. And shoving it under the carpet is going to only mean that that's going to create more problems in the long run. So you're going to confront your traumas by saying, I need to get this help and I need to get this help fast. Forgiving those who have hurt you. You're not doing it for them, but you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for them, but you're doing it for yourself. Because when you hold on to unforgiveness, as many of you all would know, it only just keeps making you even more sick. Sister Candy and then Brother Giovanni.
Yeah, and I also wanted to, tap in on that part with the medication as well. We are people, we like to run to medications and all of that. But could I say that some of these medications that we run to are created to keep you sick?
That's right.
And that's why it's important to know. But like I was saying, when you move from that natural, from the natural part of you to that, what is the word to use? That it's not, well, it's not actually supernatural, but it's demonic, right? Because I remember some years ago, I went through a trauma, not like, but like with illness, and I was prescribed some pills, and sometimes because we are in pain, we want the solution to calm the pain. And I'm not only speaking about pain like that I'm talking about physical pain. So we run for drugs, and I remember taking one of these drugs, and literally I was hearing, kill yourself, throw yourself over this window. Because I was upstairs by my mom at the time, 3 stories. I was actually seeing men walking on my ceiling. So I'm just saying, when you like dealing with all of this too, you must understand when you move from that realm to the demonic realm, and we had to also, point people away from medications as well for this.
And Sister Candy, you are correct. Because what medications do, if you look at some of their side effects, they will just put down in the thin line, the fine line, well, hallucinations, suicide, potential death, and it's just normal. Because what some of these medications do, they create further problems. And sometimes these entities love to feed on those medications. So sometimes demons will say, oh boy, let's give it more drug self. So medications, and I will always say that I love a softer approach, because medications in these cases where these mental conditions are, you have to get to the root. Sometimes having conversations helps, talk therapy helps, prayer helps, God helps. So thank you, Sister Candy, for that, for that great contribution, brother. All right, making your trauma work for you. So we know what this is saying, victim to victor. So we know that situations have a way where it loves to keep us in a victim state, a victim mentality, where we hold on to the trauma from now until we are old. Well, I know when I was younger, yes, these things are good. But then there comes a point in time where we got to be able to say, I'm going to be the one to really turn this thing around. Let me be the encourager because of what I've gone through. So, yes, it's good to go through situations. But when you begin to allow these situations to take root and control over you, because you're saying, well, I recognize when I tell people about what I went through, people as well pay attention to me. And some of us like the attention. Or when I got through this thing, I realized people has given me a pity party. And that makes it worse for you because you're not empowering yourself, it's not helping you. But when you get to a place where you say, you know what, I got to get myself out of this mindset. I've gone through this situation. Yes, it was bad. But then at the same time, I'm going to, try to see how best I'm going to make it work for me. Because, yes.
Yes, as I say, making trauma work for you, but in a positive way, because it have persons who, as I say, love the attention. So they speak about what they have been through just for a pity party, for people to feel sorry for them, and to assist them in their trauma in the sense that staying in that sadness because you really go through that, and oh gosh, and they help and they want to feel loved. Because when it is naturally, if we hear about someone's trauma, we tend to empathize with persons, and they feed off of that. And instead of getting help, they're seeing that as their help because they are feeling loved. They see that as love.
In a case where, let's say that person has been abandoned or had that negative abandonment issue, when they get that attention, it's like a drug for them. So they say, see me, I want to let go of this trauma because it feels good. And that's a problem because, yes, you have to go through your process to heal and to share. But then you say, yeah, what? I need to really get out of this place in my mind. I need to really get to a place where I can begin to encourage myself. Look at myself and said, I've gone through this, but I'm not going to let my traumatic situation control me. I'm going to then now be the one who is then now going to be in control of my emotions. So you get up in the morning and say, I am an overcomer. I will win. I am strong. I'm going to get through this. Yes, Sister Chanel. All right, so just going to get a microphone to you, Sister Chanel.
Also, dealing with your trauma, for me, one of the most important things that we run from is accountability. So, yes, you could get all the help, all the spiritual things may show up, but if you are not taking any accountability, because even some of the traumas that we are going through, is some of them, yes, people have done things to us, but some of us are keeping ourselves in those traumas because of lack of accountability.
And that is why it's important with the sense of reasoning for the honesty. Because you can keep yourself locked in your trauma based on what you hold on to. And you are correct. So when you're honest with yourself and you begin to say, you know what, I got to understand, yes, I've gone through this thing. But then there comes a time where I'm going to say, here, what, I got to pull myself together. You know, you're in these support groups, we're in church, we get a lot of good word, a lot of good food here. So when we get the good food now, we say, here, what, I'm getting some information that I can begin now to apply it. Can begin now to be practical. Because at the end of the day, if we don't apply the good information that we're getting, it means the bad information is always going to be speaking and speaking louder. And then we're going to always find ourselves in a victim mentality rather than in a victor mentality. So making your trauma works requires you to really delve in and really say, here, what I've gone through this. Let me see how I can be an encouragement or an encouragement to somebody else to help them through. And that is why the help is important with the getting the counseling, getting the prayer, getting into the support groups, because all of these things are going to help you positively in the long run. And then being honest with yourself is also very key. And then last but not least, seeking that professional help. Because whether we like it or not, there comes a point in our lives where we got to talk to somebody. We got to talk to people. We got to be able to know that when we go through things, there are times that sometimes it's a little bit much. And sometimes you just need somebody just to talk, just for listening ear. If you don't like to talk, you could write. If you don't like to write, you could sing. If you don't like to sing, you could dance. So we have, counselors available in the churches. We have counselors available in the hospitals, Division of Health and Social Services, elders and associates. We have free counseling in the church, Brother Giovanni, free counseling in the church. For the members, free counseling. And at the end of the day, my services, I'm willing to offer them freely within Restorers, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to be our brothers and sisters' keeper. And we can't see brothers and sisters struggling and not at least try to help them or equip them with the tools that you will need to become the better, the best versions of yourselves. So we have a question. All right, Brother Giovanni, yes.
I have one question. Psychology and counseling is not a popular thing in the Trinidad and Tobago space, especially Tobago space. Most people are not aware that they need counseling, and a lot of people are not aware that counseling is available. So what can we do, as we are learning from you this evening, to spread the awareness of counseling is available, and to help our families, even ourselves, become healed, our communities, by extension the nation, to help the nation and the people become a healthier people, more or less. Right, so that's why we have sessions like these, whereby, you all gather the information, because even as you all are going out there, as evangelists, as ministers, and you're getting the information, because it's an equipment. So it's tools that you all are going to be equipped with in circles like these or in settings like these. So when you go out now, you'll be able to share. Because when people come to you, they may say, well, I've been raped, and I'm dealing with this thing, and I don't really know what to do and who to talk to, and I think suicide. You'll be able to say, well, here, what? Let's begin to get you some help, because you'll pray. Praise we have, because it's a combination. We have prayer, we have the counseling, we have the support. Because in order to really help a person, we have to help them holistically. Mind, body, spirit, and soul. So we have these sessions, and these sessions are for information. As well as even for us, we can take it and apply it in our own lives. So when we go home and go out into our communities, we share. We have the World Wide Web. We have information on trauma on the World Wide Web. So what you do now, you pull information and you begin to have conversations with your family members and you share with them. Because you would want your family member to be the best. So information does something when we have it. We're able to learn. We're able to learn new ways to deal with situations. So we're not going to just no longer coffin walls. We say here what we could talk to people about that. We could be able to take a little minute and take a little walk away. We could say prayers. So these sessions are sessions not just for us, but it's also sessions that will help us to be better versions and, for our own family members. So we share the information with them when we have the opportunity to share while we're in their presence. Can we have a microphone to the sister, Afisha?
Right. So, for instance, like when I myself went through a personal traumatic experience, right? So I personally didn't like the sweet treatment, and it used to anger me, and I went through a whole depression stage, crying every night. Nobody never knew I was crying. Like in the shower and thing before I go and sleep. I had these suicidal thoughts and everything, right? But anytime it brought up, I'm not feeling as bad as I was in the beginning. Now I could deal with it, but how do you know when you have overcome trauma?
Trauma is a process. And sometimes for some of us it takes a longer time. Some may take a lifetime, and some may tell you, well, I've gotten over it. because now you no longer cry a lot when you talk about the situation. Because I heard you said that when people come and speak to you, it's like you don't want to hear them because you're at a place where you were still processing, you were still going through, you're still coping. So sometimes when you're like that person have to understand, I got to give her some space, I got to give her some time. She's going to come around. So every individual processes information differently, and every individual will have a different time. Some will tell you it took them 20 years, some will tell you it took them 30 years, some will tell you sometimes I have memories. So it depends on the individuals, because we can't come in this room and say everybody's going to be healed at the same time and everybody's going to get better. So each individual will have a specific time for them, a different process time.
This is my final question, for the interest of time. I've seen people who have gone through trauma, and before they are healed, they can't share the trauma. But after they are healed, they could share and smile and laugh about it. So my question is, can persons, or can you say, speaking about your trauma or not being able to help persons that went through what you're going through or vocalize your trauma, can that help you become healed, or is that a sign that you are healed?
It's a sign, yes, that what we'll say, when a trauma occurs, it's fresh. So you don't want to really deal with it. But then if during the process you've gotten the help, then it means that it makes it easy for you to then now say, well, okay, I can be able to talk about it. So it occurs when help comes in. Because if help don't come in, then it means that you're always going to bury it, and every time you hear about it, you don't want to talk about it. So yes, that's part of what we call the healing process. Because then it means that you're at a place now where I'm no longer, like what we'll say, like hurting. I'm hurting, yes, but not to the extent in which I was hurting when the trauma, when the situation took place. So that is, yes, a sign of healing. Healing has started, and whatever help you have been accessing, it means that that help has to continue. So then eventually after a while, you're going to say, well, I've gone through it, and I'm no longer, like when I'm in a space, I can talk about it and be encouraged and encourage someone else. Because help came in, and help came in a way that was healthy for you. So the time is, we could be here all night long. But it's 8:30, and I just want to, thank you. We have come to the end of our session on trauma. And I really want to thank everybody for your contributions, your questions, your answers. And I thank you for the opportunity to just be able to share here tonight.